Old Mother Wrinkle. Old Mother Wrinkle was a strange old dame. She lived in an oak tree which had a small door so closely fitted into its trunk that nobody but Dame Wrinkle could open it. It was opened many times a day by the old dame, for always there seemed to be somebody knocking at her door. The little folk came by to ask her to take away their wrinkles. Fairies never get old as we do, but sometimes, if they're worried about anything, they frown or sulk, and then lines and wrinkles grow in their faces. Frown at yourself in the glass and see the ugly wrinkle you get. Mother Wrinkle could always take away any wrinkle, no matter how deep it was. She would take a fairy into her round tree room, sit her down in a chair and look at her closely. "Oh," she might say, "you've been feeling cross this week. There's a very nasty wrinkle right in the middle of your forehead. Sit still, please." Then she would rub a curious smelling ointment on the fairy's forehead to loosen the wrinkle. Then she took up a very fine knife and carefully scraped the wrinkle off. She powdered the fairy's forehead and told her to go. "But don't you frown any more," she would call after her. "It's a pity to spoil your pretty face." Now Mother Wrinkle had taken wrinkles away for 200 years, and the inside of her room was getting quite crowded with the wrinkles. She didn't like to throw them away, for she was a careful old dame. She packed them into boxes and piled them one on top of another. But soon the boxes reached the top of her room. Really, there must be 1,000,000 wrinkles packed into them. What in the world could Mother Wrinkle do with them? Now the fairies did not pay her for taking away their wrinkles. Sometimes they brought her a little pot of honey, sometimes it was a new shawl made of dandelion fluff. But the old dame hardly ever had any money and needed some badly. "I want a new table," she said, looking at her old worn one. "I would love a rocking chair to rock myself in when I'm tired. And how I would like a pair of soft slippers for my old feet." She told the Sandy Rabbit this one day when he came to bid her good morning. He nodded his long-eared head. "Yes," he said, "you do want some new things, Mother Wrinkle. Well, why don't you sell those boxes of wrinkles and get a little money?" "Sell the wrinkles?" cried the old dame. "Why, I'd love to, but who would buy them? Nobody. If people want to get rid of wrinkles, they certainly wouldn't pay money to get some. That's a silly idea, Sandy Rabbit." The rabbit lolloped off, thinking hard. He liked the old woman. She was always generous and kind. He wished he could help her. He talked to the pixies about it. He spoke to the frogs. He told the hedgehog. He spoke to the bluebell fairy. And last of all, he met the little primrose fairy and told her. She listened carefully, and then she thought hard. She'd been very worried for the last 50 years because the primroses, which were her special care, had been dreadfully spoiled each spring by the rain. Whenever it rained, the wet clung to the leaves, ran down to the centre of the plant, and spoilt the pretty yellow flowers. It was such a nuisance. She had been so worried about it that Mother Wrinkle had had to scrape away about 20 wrinkles from her pretty forehead. But now she had an idea. Suppose she took the wrinkles that the old dame had got in her boxes. Suppose she pressed them into primrose's leaves. Suppose she made them so wrinkled that when the rain came, the wrinkles acted like little riverbeds and drained the water off at once, so that it didn't soak the leaves and spoil the flowers. What a good idea that would be, thought the Primrose Fairy joyfully. I'll try it. So she went to Mother Wrinkle and bought 1 box of wrinkles. She took them to her primrose dell and set to work. The primrose leaves in those days were as smooth and as thin as beech leaves, but when the fairy began to press the wrinkles into the leaves, what a difference it made! One by one the leaves looked rough and wrinkled. In the middle of her work the rain came down, and to the fairy's great delight the wrinkles acted just as she had hoped. The rain ran into them and trickled to the ground in tiny rivulets. "Good," said the fairy in delight. "Now listen, primrose plants. You must grow your leaves in a rosette and point them all outwards and downwards. Then, when the rain comes, your wrinkles will let it all run away on the outside, and your flowers will be kept dry and unspoiled." Little by little, the fairy gave wrinkles to every primrose plant, and they grew well, till the woods were yellow with the flowers in spring. Mother Wrinkle was delighted to sell the old wrinkles. She bought herself a new table, a fine rocking chair, and 2 pairs of soft slippers. And now you must do something to find out if this strange little story is true. Hunt for the primrose plant, and look at the leaves. You will see the wrinkles there as sure can be, delicate and fine, but quite enough to let the rain run away without spoiling those pale and lovely flowers.